20 years. It took 20 years for them to make another Pokemon theme park. In celebration of Pokepark Kanto's release, I want to take us on a journey through the original Pokeparks that have been banished to oblivion. The first Pokepark officially launched in Nagoya, Japan on March 18th, 2005. Entering the park was free, but like a carnival, you had to pay to go on each ride and attraction. The park had a giant Ferris wheel, a Rayquaza roller coaster based on the Destiny Deoxys movie, a Mudkip water ride, eco-terrorist themed bumper cars, and so many other awesome rides and attractions that are currently either rotting in some warehouse or a landfill. Who's catching hepatitis with me to search for the legendary Beast Carousel? They went all out in making sure every inch of the park was covered in Pokemon iconography. There were Pokemon themed shaded areas, a Pikachu car, people dressed like Pokemon, and over 380 Pokemon statues spread all over the park. There were even some Easter eggs thrown in there that really shows how much attention to detail was put in by the design team. They also had an area with more traditional carnival games called the Pokemon Game Corner. Given the elusive nature of the park in an area where everyone didn't have a 4K camera in their pocket, visual references of what most of these games looked like have been lost to time, but I was able to find several from the Magikarp fishing game. I found a video, a picture, and even a Trico playing it, but nothing from the other games. Luckily, the official Pokepark pamphlet has been archived and it lists out some of the other games, and they're mostly gambling themed. I'm not morally grandstanding about gambling, I just think the juxtaposition is funny. Everyone knows 90% of gamblers quit before they win big, so steal from your friends and family. It's fine, you can pay them back when you hit that jackpot. The other games seem to be Pokemon reskins of classic carnival games. There's the aforementioned fishing game, a game where you throw shadow balls into holes, and an electrode version of that game where you have to perfectly roll a ball up a railing. I went into making this video to learn more about the park proper, but while researching I found down another rabbit hole I became slightly obsessed with. The Pokepark had a gift shop creatively named Pokemon Shop, and it has some of the coolest exclusive Pokemon merchandise ever. Like the Game Corner, information on the shop itself is very scarce, but luckily a ton of the items for sale have been archived through promotional materials and resellers. These awesome hats are definitely up there with my favorites. They also sold a Rayquaza, Groudon, and Kyogre version that weren't in this brochure. They had these fun headbands, pillows, plushies, and a bunch of Pokepark branded merchandise. They sold a park branded DS, and you could tell just how long ago this was because it's before the DS slimmed down for the light version. They also had a DS bag and these sick ass DS charms that are mini replicas of the train ride and the Quaza coaster. Every ride had a respective keychain and pin, and this led me to discovering another rabbit hole of Pokemon fans who document all the rare pins to come out over the years. Most of the merchandise has been archived through resellers, and let me tell you, all of this shit is overpriced. Some of the sellers are more reasonable than others, but I appreciate them all since a lot of this stuff would have been lost to time if not for their listings. The ones going for the most reasonable prices are definitely the Pokepark DS's. They float around $200 on the lower end, with prices climbing up for ones that come with the original packaging. Listings like these are on the more understandable side to me because it's a piece of limited edition merchandise from the park and you're able to play DS and Game Boy Advance games. I don't care about the original packaging because I would be playing the DS and I've been wanting to get my hands on one so I could shiny hunt in the games from Gen 3 to 5. I'm still looking back in horror at my younger self who traded in his entire DS and 3DS collection into GameStop. I also traded in my copy of Luigi's Mansion and Melee, and I similarly look back on that memory in horror. The Pokemon iconography even bled into the food you could buy. Meowth's Party Cafe sold a Meowth bento box, a Pokeball bowl, and there were souvenir popcorn buckets and soda cups. As I've mentioned, while diving into this rabbit hole I became quite enamored with the limited collectibles to come out of the park, but I would not want to buy secondhand food and drink receptacles. Especially this cup that's missing a bunch of pieces. This is environmental storytelling, letting me know this is a cup that's been used over the last 2 decades. Sure, dishwashers can clean and disinfect, but I'll still be thinking about how I'm putting my mouth where some stranger's mouth has potentially been for the last 20 years, and that would make my chemical-riddled soda feel gross. Some collectibles didn't require any payment. Every ride gave out an exclusive Pokemon card, part of one of 2 special Japanese sets called Pokepark Forest and Pokepark Blue, exclusive to, you guessed it, Pokepark Japan, each with a cool little logo representing their respective rides. A Torchic for the Ferris wheel, a Mudkip for the water ride, a Groudon for the bumper cars, and so on. There were 13 of these ride cards in total. Alternate versions of these cards were available for purchase in the shop with the rest of their sets. They were sold in the Pokepark Blue file and the Pokepark Forest file, collectively known as the Pokepark Premium files. The Premium files were 2 binders designed for displaying the 9 cards that came included in each. The artwork was taken directly from their respective folders Shoulders key art, Forest being cuter and Blue being way more badass. Some of these eventually got reprinted in English, but the 13 alternates that were given out to those who went on rides never got reprinted outside of Japan, and since the ride's logo covered where the name of the artist usually goes, the person or people who did the artwork for these cards remains a mystery to this day. There's a rumor that only 1,000 of each file was produced, which would mean there are only 1,000 of each of these cards in existence, but I kinda think this is just a rumor a Bulbapedia editor started, or at the very least popularized. In 2012, an editor updated the PokePark Premium Files page stating the only 1,000 claim as fact. It wasn't until 2016 when another Bulbapedia editor updated this article, changing the 1,000 claim from fact to it's rumored only 1,000 were made. And from the discussions I found regarding this metric, people are either directly sourcing Bulbapedia or they're paraphrasing the article, like this case from December of 2016, which was after the correction. My game theory for what's going on here is that the original person who updated the Bulbapedia article saw the claim made on some obscure forum with no evidence, then from Bulbapedia platforming the claim, it became a more widespread urban legend in the community. But when a second Bulbapedia editor realized there was no source for this, they changed it from fact to rumor. While looking into this, I couldn't find that original Bulbapedia editor's source, but I did find someone who did the math, and it really shows just how unlikely this claim is. If we go on the assumption they were on sale for the duration of PokePark's existence, the 6-month period from March to September 2005, we could start to guesstimate the numbers. I found a source that confirmed the park's visitor numbers, which was approximately 4.15 million visitors according to PokePark's general producer, Nobukazu Saito. If we assume 1% of the guests bought the PokePark files, probably overestimated, it would suggest 40,000 copies. If there are indeed only 1,000 copies, this suggests that only 0.02% of visitors acquired the file. With the numbers laid out like that, it seems highly unlikely they would be so underprepared, so much so that only a fraction of a percentage of visitors would be able to buy these exclusive sets of cards. It could very well be the case that the Pokemon Company treated these sets as limited time rewards for the first 1,000 patrons who bought them, but there's no source for this. It's just flavor text that adds a level of mystique to the premium files some guy said almost 15 years ago. Only 2 mods perpetuated the claim, so I don't want this to come off like I'm shitting my pants at the whole of the website. It's an invaluable resource. I just think it's important for information hubs to disregard unsubstantiated rumors. At that point, it's no different from Twitter or Reddit, and nobody wants to be Reddit. Rare Merchandise wasn't the only thing to come out of the 05 PokePark. It also produced some pieces of lost media that are inaccessible to the general public today. The first being a minigame called PokePark Fishing Rally for the DS. Guests who brought their DS were able to install the game at these fishing rally machines through download play. The game is a pretty straightforward fishing game that takes the player along the path of a river feeding into an ocean. The goal of the game is to rack up the highest score and was a competition between every park goer, with the highest scores being displayed directly on the machine. These 3D models were definitely taken from Pokemon XD and Coliseum, but the game also featured some charming original assets that builds a nice atmosphere. Since the game automatically uninstalled if you powered off your DS or when 12 hours passed from the time of downloading, it effectively became lost media. Somehow though, videos of the game were captured way back in 2005. There's never been any ROMs made available to the public, but since it's rather short and these videos show the entirety of PokePark Fishing Rally, fans were able to recreate the music in the entire game. A man named Manuel Matasans completely rebuilt the game in Unity and made it publicly available for download on PC, mobile, and if you're more technically savvy, you could even play it on the 3DS or Wii U. The game has some new features like the inclusion of Grand Oak, so it isn't a one-to-one remake, but it's better than the game not existing in any form. The second piece of lost media to come out of PokePark Japan, unfortunately does not have as happy an ending when it comes to recovery. This was a Pikachu short called Pokemon 3D Adventure Find Mew, about Pikachu and Meowth flying around the world in search of Mew, featuring some poorly aged 3D animations. The short was initially screened at a movie theater connected to the park and allowed fans who brought their Nintendo handhelds to receive a tie-in mystery gift Meowth. They also got a Jirachi Pokemon card, one of the 13 ride cards mentioned earlier. I called them ride cards as an easy catch-all term. Attraction cards would be more accurate. An attraction card is also what I used on your mom. Not to come for Bulbapedia again, but on this card's page, they say this Jirachi was given out to those who rode on the Pokemon Star Swing, and also claim the logo for the ride is in the bottom right corner of the card's art. But this logo on the corner says Find Mew. In fairness, Jirachi is one of the 3 mascots for the Star Swing, but the Celebi card was given out to those who rode it, with this being the ride's actual logo. I for one am appalled a volunteer editor wrote a slight inaccuracy into an article about a super obscure Pokemon card from 20 years ago.
Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
The Find Mew short has no archives of it online. It was played again at special screenings in Japanese theaters in 2017 and 2020, but nobody had the foresight to record it. The only footage of it that exists online is this 30-second trailer that gives us an idea of what went on. Interestingly enough, this old commercial also included a trailer for another Pikachu short, Pokemon 4D, Pikachu's Ocean Adventure, that is also considered lost media, and it was also replayed at the same 2017 and 2020 special screenings as the Find Mew short. Pikachu's Ocean Adventure has more information about it out there, but they both remain unfound in their entirety to this day. To say the park was a hit is a major understatement. In the first 46 days, it officially reached 1 million visitors, which averages to around 21,000 people a day. Just think about that many people in this tiny park the size of the average carnival. And by the time the park closed on September 25th, they hit well over 4 million visitors. After its 6-month run from March to September 2005, the Pokepark officially closed up shop, never to be seen again. Until the next year. On February 20th, 2006, a press conference was held in Taipei, Taiwan, announcing the second official Pokepark being held in, you guessed it, Taipei, Taiwan. This park was specifically a celebration of Pokemon's 10th anniversary, but it was also the Pokemon Company dipping their toes into the idea of an international traveling Pokepark. Starting in Taiwan, because Pokepark Japan had gotten a lot of Taiwanese visitors. It was their safest trial run. The park was already set up like a carnival with its pop-up nature, so they intended to lean into that by moving the park from Taiwan to other countries all over the world annually until 2010. Unfortunately, that was not the case, and Pokepark Taiwan would be the last of its kind for the next 20 years. With a shorter lifespan than its Japanese counterpart running from June to September 2006, the total number of visitors wasn't made public, but since they discontinued the concept after Taiwan, it's safe to assume it wasn't viewed as a profitable enough endeavor to expand into an intercontinental operation. Pokepark Taiwan was smaller than the first, notably missing major rides like the Ferris wheel, the Latios and Latios swinging ship, and, worst of all, the Quasar Coaster. Sadly, we know where the last two went thanks to this Reddit post, and there's not a happy ending. The Rayquaza roller coaster was last seen in action on September 25th, 2005, the day Pokepark Japan closed. In 2006, the Japanese amusement park, Minya Machida Beachland and Toy Kingdom, debuted the Sea Dragon coaster. With an identical track path, the same light blue rails, the same dark blue metal supports and gates, the ride has the same amount of seats, and they're both dragons. These are the same ride. They mutilated Rayquaza, repainted it, and shipped it to another Japanese park. This is such a bummer, since Rayquaza is the perfect Pokemon to adapt into a roller coaster, and the ride itself is based on one of the coolest Pokemon movies. Missing out on this ride was definitely a tick in the box against Pokepark Taiwan. The Latios and Latios ride was also brought to this park and rebranded into a more traditional pirate swing ride. Funnily enough, while they did paint over the sign, they didn't alter the shape of the sign itself, so you could still see the silhouettes of Latios and Latios on top of the shades of red and blue the ride was originally painted, acting as a haunting reminder of what was taken from us. Both of these rides were removed from the park in the last decade. Hopefully, some other internet sleuth will find them again one day if they ended up being transferred to another park, instead of the worst case scenario of them being decommissioned for good. The lack of these two rides starring Dragon-type Pokemon wasn't the only thing different about Taiwan's Pokepark. The park also changed the monetization format. Instead of free admission and charging per ride, they took a more traditional amusement park route by selling full-day tickets or more expensive season passes. After its 3-month run, Pokepark Taiwan closed up shop and was the last of the traveling pop-up theme parks, with the Pokemon Company abandoning their intercontinental ambitions. Luckily, fans would only have to wait 20 years for a Pokepark resurrection. In December of 2023, the Pokemon Company put out an official press release announcing Pokepark Kanto, a permanent Pokemon theme park coming to Japan. We wouldn't get any more updates for the next 2 years until the July 2025 Pokemon Direct. It debuted the first trailer for the park where we learned it would take up 26,000 square meters and was going to be an addition to an existing Japanese amusement park called Yomiuri Land. Like how Nintendo World is a sub-area of Universal, or the Star Wars area in Disneyland that used to be Tomorrowland. We have a pretty solid idea of what the park is going to look like when it opens, and it's very non-traditional as far as amusement parks go. It's split into two main areas, the town that has a variety of activities, and the main attraction, the forest. It's a wooded hiking trail through a recreation of a Pokemon forest filled with life-size statues of Pokemon with a focus on depicting what would be their natural behaviors. We got a pretty good look at its layout from the scale model shown in the reveal trailer. There are certain areas where they trade out realism for sections that look more like routes roots from older Pokemon games, but there's also areas that look like more traditional wooded hiking trails only with Pokemon. The second main area is called Sedge Town. This was shown in much more detail in the November 10th trailer, and it shines a light on what one of the main points of the park seems to be. There's only 2 rides. One is a cool throwback to the Pikachu's Forest ride from the original Pokepark, and the other is a carousel. There's also a gym that's going to host shows, various stands and shops around the town that sell Pokemon themed food and drinks, but the main focus points of the trailer were these Pokemon statues in various poses designed to take pictures with. The same ones we saw scale models of in the first trailer. I'm pretty mixed on this since there are a ton of awesome statues, and I would shamelessly have someone photograph me pretending like I'm commanding a Tyranitar in battle, but I'm not a big fan of places where you gotta take pictures everyone else takes pictures at. This is a montage of what I mean. I'm also wondering how they're gonna handle crowds and lines for these statues. Touching back on the rides, I'm not too bummed about the lack of variety in the rides since Yomi Land has a ton of awesome ones, and I have a very strong hunch there's going to be more Pokeparks. This one being called Kanto and it being a sub-area of an existing amusement park has me thinking there's going to be Pokeparks all over the world eventually following this same formula. Editing room update. While working on this video, it was announced they're going to start rolling out Pokeparks at different Universal Studios locations. We're getting a Pokepark in America. The only downside is, you have to go to Florida. Back to you, me. They may even go the Disneyland route and rebrand some of Yomi Land's existing rides into Pokemon ones, like how Space Mountain became Star Wars themed and Splash Mountain became a Princess and the Frog ride. Pokepark Kanto officially opens in February of 2026. After 20 years, there's finally a new Pokemon theme park. While I'll always be sad I missed out on the more campy pop-up carnival style parks, one that feels like you're in the actual Pokemon world is objectively way cooler. The one thing we can say for sure is, scalpers are going to get their grimy ass fingers all over the new Pokepark merchandise, which sucks because some of it looks really sick. I would never wish cancer on anyone, but scalpers should definitely kill themselves.